Welcome back to Main Street, the Craig L. Hayes Show. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're on episode number 2 with Jana Dunford, and we're going to continue to talk about her life in Jacksonville, Illinois, right?
Yep,
Did I get that
that's
right?
the one.
Okay.
That's the one.
And just a second ago, she told me was nervous about chickens. Why would? And so,
Well, I remember that I was scared of chickens when we lived in California, and my mom made me go out and get the egg from the chicken every day, and I was so terrified of them. But I had to find a stick every time and hold that stick to keep the chicken away from me so that I could grab the egg and then run away as fast as possible. It was it was just one of those little kid things, but that fear did not continue on with me as I grew up. I was okay with chickens
chickens can be aggressive.
I was fine with chickens. I do remember my neighbor and my dad, they killed a rooster in our garden, probably the rooster that kept everybody awake all the time in the mornings. But I remember them taking the rooster, taking an axe and chopping his head off and holding up the rooster by his feet and letting the blood drain out, and it was flapping away. And now I know what it means to act like a chicken with your head cut off, run around like a chicken with your head cut off. Yeah, because I saw that.
They actually do that.
They actually do that and flap around like, wah. And
They bounce. They're like hopscotch everywhere. They just start jumping. Yeah, I've had to do that a couple of times here. And with my sister's place there in Vegas, they had a whole bunch of chickens. And every about 4 months, we'd process chickens down there. Yeah. We're doing like 80 at a time. So
yeah. So I guess there in California, that's where I started to appreciate, I guess, nature and life. Because in our garden, we would grow carrots and things. And I remember just, my dad pulled a carrot out of the ground and washed it off right there and ate it. And boy, did that taste good. Oh, that was so good. I remember things like that, and just I would sit up in the tree right there by the garden and sing "In the leafy treetops, the birds sing good morning," and I would just sing that as a happy little kid. And
that's awesome. That's life should be like that when you're a little kid. And I mean, obviously you fall down, you scrape your knee, you do all kinds of stuff, but those are things you don't really remember.
Yeah.
But all the happy times, those are the important ones. That's when you get older and you start losing memories and stuff. You want to hold on to those.
You want to hold on to the happy ones.
Yeah.
I do remember my first bike that I crashed and did get a scar, and I still have it. That crazy scar on my knee. Anyway, it's okay. It just shows that I lived life. It's my, badge of courage.
Was it from a scrape or was it from a cut?
Yeah. No, I scraped it nice and
real deep.
Real bad. But it's okay. I learned how to ride a bike. I can still ride a bike. So
there you go.
Fine.
Not afraid of bikes, though.
I'm not afraid of bikes. No, it's all good.
That didn't turn you away from bicycles.
No, I was happy. Love that bike.
There's something about a bicycle, just riding around and having fun on it, and just
it's great.
The air blowing through your hair, and bicycles are awesome.
Yeah, that's right. So then we made that trek across America to Illinois, and the main thing I remember from there in elementary was just being happy, being a happy kid, playing with my brothers and sisters. I think I have a very creative, busy brain, and so we would play all the time. We played bank, we played store, we would play with our Fisher-Price little people, we would play with our Barbie dolls. And I remember my brother being really mad about that because my sister and I would be playing with our Barbie dolls by brushing their hair and changing their clothes for like 2 hours straight. And then he'd say, "Well, when are you going to start playing?" Well, we've been playing the whole time. And
this is playing.
That wasn't his idea of playing, but
go play Army Man somewhere. Go on.
And he would, but. I mean, all of those things. We'd ride our bikes up and down the driveway. I mean, just when it snowed, we would go play, have snow angels in the right there in the lawn in front of the dorms. And we were just always playing, always together and fighting, unfortunately, sometimes, which I'm sorry if my brother ever listens to this. I'm really sorry. And he's sorry too. And to my sister, the three of us, we were like 3 little peas in a pod. And you know how it goes with brothers and sisters. Yeah, sometimes we're just dumb and mean to each other. But I love my brother's sister, and then my other little sister showed up, and she was a sweetheart. And anyway, we just had a good time there. Good life. I just felt like it was a happy childhood. Just my mom always, she was a good cook. She made us yummy food. We'd cookies, and we'd eat our cookies, and we'd have to like eat all around all the chocolate chips so we could count how many chocolate chips per cookie.
See if someone got cheated.
Yeah, like who got more chocolate. This is the silliest things, but just fun.
That's okay.
I remember one time a squirrel got into our basement. How did that happen? Who knows? But we heard some noise at the back door, which is in our kitchen. And I looked in the window, and there was a squirrel looking back at me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, there's a squirrel that got in the basement. And so we're like, well, we got to get him out of the basement. And so our kitchen was kind of weird. It had 5 doors in it. One for the pantry, one for the basement, one for a bathroom, one for the dining room, and one to the outside.
Okay.
It was a strange kitchen. But so we all stood on our chairs because we were eating dinner when this happened. We all stood up on our chairs, and then my dad opened up the door where the squirrel was, and the squirrel came running out. Of course, we had linoleum on the floor, and the squirrel was running and sliding all over the kitchen, and we were screaming our hearts out. Ah! Oh my goodness. And of course, the back door was open. It finally found its way out of the back door, but boy, that was memorable. Gee whiz.
There you go. There's one of the memories you were looking for. You found it.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I don't know if I asked you before you said it or I asked you. Where was your dad working?
He was working at McMurray College.
McMurray.
The Methodist College. My dad became a sociologist, so he taught sociology, anthropology, art. Well, I don't know if he taught archaeology, but I know he went on an archaeological dig. And he did that one time.
Where to?
Dixon Mounds, I think it was called. I'm not exactly sure. I remember him talking about that.
States.
In Illinois. Yeah, it was there. It wasn't very far away from our house, but he went on this dig, and he was gone all summer for those 2 months of summer, and I remember he came back and said, "Yeah, we found a skeleton there when they were digging." And he talked about how they had to be really careful and brush the things. My dad's a very curious person, wants to know all of these different things. My mom, on the other hand, was definitely more like creative. She liked to sew things, and she liked to paint and to draw, and she loved reading books. And so, we always had books around. She'd take us to the library all the time. I remember our library there in Illinois was cool. It was I love old buildings. That our city had a bunch of old buildings. And so the library was one of those, and the kids area was in the basement. And then it had an old elevator with those metal grate doors, and you could go in anyway, and it shut on you. But if you went all the way up to the top floor of the library, the floor was made of glass. So you could actually see down to the floor below it, which was super cool, and anyway, it was a really cool looking library, unique, I would say. I liked, the few times, I don't know how many times I got to go up to the top floor was really fun, but I never had a good reason to go up there because the kid stuff was in the basement.
Yeah.
And so it was all the adult stuff up there.
So it was a cool library, but was it as cool as the Bahama?
That
jail
one,
library?
Yeah, that one was unique because it was a jail. Yeah. Yeah, but I really liked, that Jacksonville had a bunch of old buildings, and, because I remember going into one of the buildings on campus, and they said, this is a condemned building. It's going to be torn down or whatever. So come walk through before it gets knocked down. And just getting to walk around in all the cubby spaces, whatever, it was just really fun. One morning we woke up on a Saturday morning, and we're like, what's going on? And we hear all this crazy smash banging going on. We looked out the window of our house, and right across the street, they were knocking down one of the old buildings. And it took a while to crash that thing down, but they turned it into a parking lot, and that was the end of it. But yeah, I remember walking to school, and it was at least 2 blocks away, and I walked thing too so many times. I felt like I had every brick, and it was a brick sidewalk. I felt like I had every brick memorized, everywhere every single one went. We went over like a little creek and everything. And I remember that we had a terrible, I didn't think it was terrible. I'm sure other people thought it was terrible. Snowstorm, ice storm. It was really an ice storm. We had a couple of them. And our entire city was covered with ice. And it made it really dangerous, but we still had to go to school. And so I remember walking through all of the snow and then coming to the trees that we always passed. And I touched the little branch. I touched one little bit and it broke right off in my hand. And I thought, oh, we need to be careful that we don't touch more of the tree. We don't want big branches to break right off because they were so loaded with ice.
Yeah.
So we're like, don't touch anymore. But it was beautiful. It was the most beautiful, I mean, like winter wonderland world or something, of all ice on every branch and everywhere you looked. It was so pretty. So anyway.
That's nice.
Just, yeah, all of these things that, along with all the storms that we had, but lots of lightning and thunder. And I remember my dad took us during the beginning of one of the storms. We went across the road to the McMurray College Library, which was right across the street from us. And we sat on the front steps. It was nighttime, evening. And so no one was there. The library was closed and everything. And we sat on the front steps of huge columns. Now, of course, I was a kid, so I'm not sure how huge they were, but to me, they seemed really huge. And we sat there on those steps with the columns, and the light for way up there in the ceiling was swaying back and forth quite dramatically as the wind came in and the storm and the lightning and the thunder just whooshing. And I mean, it definitely could have been a scene from a movie, but I just remember sitting and watching all of that. So anyway.
Those are some pretty good memories from Jacksonville, Illinois.
And then life gets dramatic again. So in the 6th grade, my dad informed us that he got hired to go work in Japan. So, so we left Illinois and we moved to Japan, and that was in February of that year. So I didn't get a whole year of 6th grade. I got about half a year of 6th grade. And we moved to Japan we always say it was a year because it's easy for people to remember that, but it was actually about 10 months. Basically, it was one whole school year. So their school year started, I think, in February or something like, it started March, went for however long it was. But anyway, so we left. We packed up everything we could into my bedroom and put a lock on it. And then we rented our house out while we were gone and gave away our favorite kitty, which I was so sad about. But anyway, our kitty's name was Neko, which means cat in Japanese. And so because my dad had gone to Japan on his mission, and so he already spoke Japanese.
Oh, okay.
And so before we left, he tried to teach us some words, which was good of him to do that, but it wasn't enough words. And so when we got there, he got us a tutor who came every day for weeks to help my brother and sister and I learn how to speak Japanese. And so we would meet with her every day after school, and she would help us with our homework, and she taught us how to write the characters and everything, because we didn't go to an American school. My dad was hired to work at Tokyo University and Tsuda Women's College, so 2 places. And those were not near our house. We borrowed a house. I don't know if my parents paid rent. I just know that we kind of swapped places with a half American family. It was the father was American and the wife was Japanese, and they went to America when we went to Japan. And so we stayed in their house when they went to America. But they are not the ones who rented our house. I don't know where they went, but we stayed in their house that year. And so we lived in Hachioji, which was an hour and a half outside of Tokyo. And so if we wanted to go to Tokyo, we would ride on the now I'm starting to think of Japanese, Shinkansen. We would ride on the trains to get into, take the buses and the trains to get into the city. But our city was huge anyway. Tokyo was even bigger. I remember when we first flew in there, just being overwhelmed with the number of people and cars and buses and just trains just running. You hear them all the time, all the time. And I remember going in and out of the hotel doors and, restaurant doors or whatever and thinking, okay, I've seen those little symbols on the other door. That's got to either mean in and out or enter and exit. And I didn't know what it meant, but I saw the patterns of things, immediately in and out, whatever the sign was. And just being amazed by just the amount of city. I must have seen a Japanese, type of movie before when I was a kid, because when we got there and seeing all the skyscrapers and everything, I thought to myself, where are all the little huts? I thought Japanese people lived in rice paper huts with thatched roofs and things like that. So where is that? And I didn't see that anywhere. This was city as far as you could see, people wearing jeans and suit coats. And I didn't see people wearing kimonos and, all like that. And at least not right at first, I didn't. And I learned later that mostly they wear their traditional clothing for their, matsuris, like the festivals, the celebrations and things like that, and parades or whatever they would have. And so I didn't realize that at first. And yes, they still do have rice paper houses and things, but those are out in the country.
Yeah.
And we did get to go see. We actually got to stay in one of them partway through the year. But when we got to Japan, it was not like the elementary I had come from. This was very Japanese. So my brother and sister both went to a Japanese elementary school, and I went to a Japanese junior high school. So because of the way their school year fell, it was better for me to go to 7th grade. So I went to 7th grade early, and we wore uniforms. We wore brown uniforms, and I had a suit coat, and I had to tie my tie every day. And I had my red tie, my white shirt, and skirts. The girls wore skirts and the boys wore pants. And we had shoes that we were required to wear. So we could wear normal shoes to school, and then you park your shoes and you put on your shoes. So the 7th grade had blue shoes, blue toed shoes, and the 8th grade had yellow toed shoes, and then the 9th grade had red. And why is this important? Because you need to know what grade the other students are in so you would know how low to bow. It's very important to know how low to bow to each other as you would pass in the hallways. If you're a 7th grader, you could just kind of nod your head at the person because you're on the same level.
Oh, okay.
And you could tell that by the color of their shoe. And if they were the 8th grade, you're going to bow your head a little tiny bit more. If the 9th grade, you give them a decent, respectful bow. As a teacher, you better bow low, or if the principal, you better, show your respect like that. And so you had to know that. And we had to learn our Japanese fast. And I remember our opening assembly, man, I was so bored out of my mind. I couldn't believe it. They had us sit on the floor in the gym, lined up perfectly, row and column, absolutely in order. And we sat on that hard gym floor for 3 hours while they read us all the rules. I'm sure that's what they were doing. Welcome to the new school year. Here are all the rules. And I didn't understand a single word they said. And I was so bored. It's a good thing I'm patient and I could hold still, because a kid with ADHD could never have done that.
No.
And I know they went through all that, but boy, was I glad when those 3 hours were over.
Yeah.
But it was, the whole school was just so interesting. All the things that they did. We had, so instead of like junior highs in America where the kids rotate from room to room, we stayed in the same room the whole time, and the teachers would come to us. And we did that for all the classes except for our shop class, our art, and music, I think. So we did that. We went up to the 5th floor for art and shop. Shop was on the bottom floor. Music. Art and music were on the 5th floor of our school. And we did not have elevators in that school. It was just stairs. We had to go up and down the stairs all the time. There's just so many different things about that school. Like the students were in charge of cleaning. We had a janitor that would come once in a while, maybe once a week or something. But that person only did some things. The students were the ones in charge of cleaning the school. Our class was in charge of cleaning the bathrooms every day, the hallway, and our own classroom. Every day we had to sweep, we had to wash things down every day. And we were also in charge of cleaning the shop room. And I remember that, and our class was all divided into little groups, and so every group had their assignment. This, you were on the bathroom duty this week, you're on hall duty, and so we knew exactly how to do that. But I remember when we were in the shop room, the boys in my group were being naughty. They were very cute boys, but they were being naughty, and they. And okay, so the shop floor was on the ground level. And we were cleaning the room, and we were supposed to put all the chairs up on the tables and sweep and clean like we're supposed to. And what were the boys doing? Jumping in and out of the windows, jumping out the window and climbing back in the window. I don't know what they were doing. They were being naughty, and they were not helping. So it took longer. And because it took longer, of course, all of us girls were like grumbly because we were doing their work. And then we got back to class. Well, we were late because we didn't get done on time. We got back to class, and we had to stand outside and wait until the teacher was ready. And then we went in, and she said, line up. And we lined up in front of the room, and she took out a paddle and spanked us all. Wooden paddle. And I think that happened a couple of times. And I'm like, so yes, I got paddled at school along with everyone else. And it wasn't my fault. I just got to say, it was their fault.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. If you're in a group, the whole group takes the punishment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When we were over in Japan with Wes, you talk about trains. Tokyo Central train station I've never seen anything like it in my life. It is massive. Trains, different levels. It was just like, holy crud.
Yeah. Yeah. It was complicated, and you have to, I don't remember how I did it, but I did figure out how to run the system in my head after a while. I do remember riding on the train one time. We'd been there a while, so I knew how to balance myself quite well on the moving train. So I didn't always have to hold on. But I remember this one train was loaded with people, absolutely, and crammed in there. And I was standing, and there was a little old lady sitting right in front of me. And I put my hand on the bar above her, but holding on. And because I thought I don't want to fall on her. Mm-hmm. Well, because there were so many people in the train, and when the train left the station, I don't know if it jerked or what, but the pressure of all those people on the train and was resting on my arm. And it was so painful. I remember, here I am, 12 years old, holding the pressure of all those people trying to protect this little old lady and hold myself up. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it hurts so badly. But that was just part of being on the train, was, and having to fight your way out, when it was time for your stop. And
yeah.
I'm probably talking too much.
No, we're good. Actually, we're getting almost at the end of this second episode. I will say what this is about Japan. I'm telling you, you have to clean up and all this stuff. I never, walking through either, we went to Kyoto, Osaka, Tokyo. Those are the three main cities we were in. I never saw a piece of paper on the ground anywhere.
Yeah, it was pretty clean.
They pick up everything. It is like, and they're the most polite people I've ever been around. Mm-hmm. As Wesley said, they're aggressively polite.
Yeah, that's true. I have come to learn, since being in these different cultures, that there's good and bad in every culture. There are smart and dumb in every culture. There's a spectrum of people in every culture, and that certain cultures are better at certain parts of life than others. In America, we are very bold. We are bold and go get 'em kind of thing, go team and like that, which is great. We are also, big on scheduling and following the clock. That's also great. In Japan, they understand respect and they understand teamwork. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the different strengths that the different countries have.
Yeah.
With each
Yeah,
other.
it was amazing. Maybe one day I'll go back. If I could be transported there, it'd be great. That plane flight, ugh, not interested in that one at all again. Yeah, you know. But anyways, that brings us to the end of this episode, and folks, we shall be back in just a moment with episode number 3. Thank you for listening to Main Street, the Craig L. Hayes Show.